All right, so the Jammu and Kashmir Delimitation Commission has signed the final order for the delimitation of the Union Territory. The panel that was asked to redraw the boundaries of the Assembly and parliamentary constituencies in Jammu and Kashmir concluded that delimitation exercise today, paving way for the much-awaited Assembly polls in the valley. And Jammu will now have about 43 seats and Kashmir will have 47 Assembly seats. Let me now go across to my colleague Madhav joining us live on this broadcast. Pradeep and Ishan also join us live. But before that, Madhav, to you first. This has been a long-waiting demand. Well, at the same time, a much-needed demand for the, territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The delimitation process finally has been completed.
Yes, it is in the process of being concluded, as the pictures that very clearly show how the signed. It is now for the government to issue a gazette notification and finally bring out the final contours of what the new assembly constituencies will look like. But at least 2 or 3 very important points that I'd like to reflect, and my colleagues from Jammu and Kashmir can elaborate on that. One is that Jammu region sees an increased representation of 6 seats, Kashmir sees an increased representation of 1 more seat, which means that the gap between the 2 regions will come down drastically. It will be 47 seats now of the 90 where active elections do happen in the Kashmir region and 43 in the Jammu region. But what is also very interesting is that we will be seeing reservations taking place for the scheduled caste, for the scheduled tribes, and we are given to understand that of the 9 seats reserved for STs, there will be at least 3 seats in the Kashmir Valley. This is something that is quite different from the situation that existed earlier, and also at the same time, adequate representation for Kashmiri pandits. For instance, nominated members is something that is being spoken about. At the same time, West Pakistan refugees and their representation is also something that is being taken into consideration by the Delimitation Commission, is what we understand. So all of this put together will see a very, very different situation in terms of the actual representation, and the Delimitation Commission feels not just better representation of the population redistributed since close to 3 decades since the last delimitation exercise was completed, but also at the same time different groups which say that they have been disadvantaged, displaced, and therefore have not been adequately represented in the assembly will be better reflected in the new form as far as the delimitation exercise is concerned. Of course, it has been a very challenging exercise. There have been multiple rounds of meetings that have taken place with various stakeholders, including political parties, members of parliament, and all of the others who are part of this entire process. And in fact, despite an initial ban, initial boycott, I beg your pardon, National Conference and other political parties have finally participated in the proceedings. They've put across their points of view, and all of that has been taken into consideration. So we will, of course, have to wait till the final gazette notification comes out in just about an hour from now to actually give further details of what this really means.
All right, stay with us, Madhav, and before we go across to our other colleagues as well, we'll play out this reaction coming in from Mehbooba Mufti. Because remember, the Gupkar gang has from the very beginning opposed this entire process, and they haven't been happy with how things have been going on. Listen in.
डिलिमिटेशन के हवाले से आज रिपोर्ट आने वाली है इस हवाले से
डिलिमिटेशन जो एक्सटेंशन बने जो आबादी का जो बेसिस है उसको दरकिनार करके जैसा उनका दिल किया जिस इलाके को जहां जोड़ा जहां तोड़ा, ये तो इसको हम पूरी तरह रिजेक्ट करते हैं. हमें तो इस पे कोई भरोसा नहीं है. ये जो 370 को जिस दिन हटाया गया उसके साथ ये जो डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन है इसकी जो सिफारिशात हैं ये उसी की कड़ी है कि किस तरह जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों के इख्तियारात कम से कम किया जाए, इनको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कमज़ोर किया जाए, किस तरह इनको डिसएम्पावर किया जाए, ये उसी की कड़ी है और कुछ भी नहीं है.
क्या पीएचडी इलेक्शन जो है साथ में लड़ी, क्योंकि उमर साहब ने भी बताया कि पीएचडी को जो है इलेक्शन साथ में लड़ना चाहिए.
देखिए, अभी तो मेरे भाई इलेक्शन का तो कोई नामो निशान.
All right, let me now go across to, Pradeep joining us live from Jammu. So, Pradeep, the commission had met various delegations in Jammu before leaving for Srinagar to really meet the stakeholders there for the submission of this report. It has met over 200 delegations and members of the civil society from Bramban, Rajouri, Poonch, Kichwar, Kathua and several such districts, and then come to a final conclusion and report about the same.
Yes, you're absolutely right. One has to understand why there was delimitation. Delimitation commission had been there because for quite some time the people in Jammu region felt that they were not getting proper representation because their area was more, and despite that there were less seats. So they had been asking for the delimitation commission to be there. And finally delimitation commission was set up and they have submitted their report. And already what we have come to know, the 6 seats have increased. Now the gap between the Jammu and Kashmir has decreased. Mehbooba Mufti, short while back, we had been hearing that she was saying that they are trying to disempower. In fact, they are not trying to disempower. They are trying to empower all those regions and all those communities who had earlier not been completely marginalized, like West Pakistan refugees, Kashmiri pandits. If you look at their population, they will never ever be able to represent their community. So that's one of the reasons that their members will be nominated. And the same is the case with the scheduled caste also. And the Jammu region already had 37 seats, but with 6 seats increasing.
In fact, Pradeep's continue to be with us. And let me also now go across to Sushil Pandit joining us on this broadcast. And Sushil Pandit, how would you respond to the entire delimitation panel that has now completed its process, and soon we are expecting elections to happen in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir? Because remember, the last delimitation process took about 7 years to really give its award in 1995, but this particular panel completed in 2 years.
Yes, but we must judge its implications in the light of what was popular expectation. The primary expectation was that all the discrimination Jammu had suffered over the decades will be addressed. Unfortunately, it has not been. The area of Jammu is more than twice the area of the valley. Population of Jammu region is more than that of the valley. And yet it ends up with lesser number of seats, primarily because the basis of this delimitation commission was 2011 census, which even BJP of Jammu and Kashmir had rejected as a flawed census, as a rigged census. And why did we hurry to use that as a basis when 2021 census is already underway? And we should have used the latest data, which is more credible, which is expected to be more credible, because 2011 was blatantly rigged.
Right. All right.
These are the issues.
In fact, stay with us, Sushil Pandit. We'll also go across to Abhijit Jasrote of the BJP joining us on this broadcast. And Mr. Abhijit, how would you respond to the Jammu and Kashmir Delimitation Commission that has now signed its final order for the delimitation process of Jammu and Kashmir? And we are expecting the next step to be elections now.
Yeah, you know, when I have to talk about delimitation commission, I'll say this thing that an apathy of 5-7 decades, that was taken care, because if you go back to 1951 when the first assembly was made, at that time Jammu was having a population of 20 lakhs and Kashmir was having a population of 80 lakhs. Still they got seats 1.5 dozen more than Jammu. So to some extent everything is taken care, and what we talk about a greater India, big India, that concept is also followed, because the merging Jammu with Kashmir and merging of that one seat of member parliament, which was extra with the Kashmir people, that is now distributed 50-50% in between Jammu and Kashmir, which is what we were anticipating also. So something better is done, and still I will repeat my words that an apathy of 7 decades was taken care. And everything was taken into cognizance, because not only population is a criteria, there are 4 other criteria also which is taken care.
And certainly this is a historic new step as far as the future of Naya Kashmir is concerned. And let me also now go across to Ishan. Thank you, Abhijit, for getting us the latest, and please stay with us, Sushil Pandit. Ishan, to you now, what has been the response of the people and the various sections as well? These are stakeholders we are talking about. There have been over 200 delegations and members that met up with this particular panel. Are they happy with the process?
Because this news has just come in that the award has been given, but we don't know what is the public response, because people are waiting for the detailed, the gazette to be issued to precisely know whether changes have been made, because all these reports have been coming through media to what really is going to happen. We have seen sharp criticism being evoked from the regional political parties, including PDP, National Conference. Now, they have been all along saying that this should be done on the basis of census, as Sushil Pandit was saying. And the same thing was told to the Association associate members, which includes two from the BJP and 2 from the National Conference here, saying that this will be actually based on the census. Now, there were different parameters on which this Delimitation Commission made these recommendations and gave this award. Now, they had seen that there were several, terrains and several places where reaching out was becoming difficult. But that is why there was a need for this Delimitation Commission to function. But ever since this Delimitation Commission was formed, political parties in Kashmir are unhappy and saying that since they have challenged the abrogation of Article 370 in the court, so it indirectly means that the commission, recommendation made by the commission are not something which they relate to, given the fact that they are already challenged it in the court, the abrogation of Article 370. However, the BJP says it's important for certain people who haven't got representation throughout the years, including scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, who live in these far-flung areas across Jammu and Kashmir.
Absolutely. And stay with us, Ishan. Going back to... In fact, Mr. Chungru also joins us on this broadcast now. And sir, how would your response to now the entire delimitation process will now be binding? It has been completed. And finally, we might expect elections to happen in Jammu and Kashmir soon.
Yes, it is wonderful. It is a great satisfaction I have a great satisfaction to note that Jammu and Kashmir Delimitation Commission has taken into account the aspirations of the people who were sidelined for the last almost 70 years, and their aspirations have also been taken note of. And then what very important issue is that about Kashmiri pandits and Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir refugees. There is some recommendation, full details are awaited. Let that come. And overall, the 43 and 47 seats, respectively, to Jammu and to Kashmir, it is fair enough. It is fair enough. It could have not been more than that at this stage, but whatever they have done, it has made definitely 5th May, as it was 5th August, a big day. Definitely a big day for Jammu and Kashmir.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ashwini, for joining us here on this broadcast. Let me also now go across to Ashok Pandit joining us here. All right, going back to Sushil Pandit, if he still is with us. All right, before that, let me also now go across to Pradeep. So, Pradeep, we have seen how the Prime Minister has also promised the restoration of this entire region statehood, which has been an ongoing demand of the opposition as well after elections. So, this is certainly a very historic step and a step ahead as far as the restoration of the statehood is concerned for Jammu and Kashmir.
No doubt about that. People in Jammu will be very happy with that, because for quite some time they had been talking about discrimination, because they always felt that it was only the Kashmir-centric political parties who were deciding, and Jammu was always held hostage to whatever was happening in Kashmir Valley. That's one of the reasons why the political parties in Kashmir, they are trying hard. They know that power is slipping out of their hands, because earlier they used to be the chief minister, but now there will be a chance to have a chief minister from Jammu region. There is also a chance of having Hindu chief minister, because every community has a right to represent this region. So it can't be only people from Kashmir Valley, and that too the Sunni Muslim, and that too from a particular class representing the people of Jammu and Kashmir region. Whereas the reality was they were not representing the people of Jammu region. So every time the people of Jammu region felt that they were completely discriminated, that's why they had been asking for Delimitation Commission. But nobody from the Kashmir Valley was really interested in that. But what we have come to know right now is that 7 seats were to be increased, because they had to decide the fate of 7 seats, keeping in view the population, keeping in view the communication, keeping in view the area, terrain, and all those things. They have given 6 seats, more seats to Jammu region. That means now Jammu will be having 43 seats.
Absolutely,
47
and this is a historic step in fact, the way forward for Naya Kashmir, for Jammu and Kashmir. And we'll wait and see when that official announcement is being made. Thank you so much, Pradeep and Ishan, for getting us the latest. Slipping into a short break. News and updates continue here on Times Now. Stay tuned.